This video contains spoilers from the Goddess Fall event, so spoiler warning. Okay, so while reading the Goddess Fall event, there's one specific scene that really caught my attention, which is Nayuta's reaction when she saw Lilith's body.
Lily Weiss? Lily Weiss?
Why are you crying and making a scene?
Forgive me. Wouldst thou lend me thy assistance in extricating her? I desire to treat her with the utmost gentleness possible.
Now the reason why this scene caught my attention is because it made me wonder if it's possible that Nayuta personally knew Lilith when Lilith was still alive. Like, was she friends with Lilith? Or another possibility that I've been considering ever since I've watched the 3rd anniversary livestream is that, is it possible that Nayuta is the first fairy tale model? Now, I know that sounds stupid, and I also don't believe it myself, but the reason why I came up with this theory is because of what Papillon said in the 3rd anniversary livestream when Nayuta Wu-Wei was revealed.
What? She's an actual fairy?
Yes, Papillon called Nayuta an actual fairy, and those words has been on my mind ever since I've watched the livestream. Now, I don't know if there's any fairy tale that could fit Nayuta's character because the only story I can think of that really fits her is Journey to the West, but I don't think that that one's a fairy tale. So yeah, we're off to a weak start. But again, it's possible that what connects Nayuta to fairy tales is that she's based on an actual fairy instead of a fairy tale character. You can even argue that her butterflies is meant to symbolize her connection to fairies, since fairies are often depicted having butterfly wings. And we were never given any hints on which fairy tale fairy number 1 was based on, so anything is possible. And I also really like the idea of fairy number 1 being based on an actual fairy instead of a fairy tale character, mainly because it would make her unique. And it's the kind of uniqueness that I would expect from the first of the fairy tale models. But anyway, since we don't have any clue on which fairy tale fairy number 1 was based on, I decided to instead focus on comparing what we know about Nayuta to things that we do know about fairy number 1. Which of course isn't really that much, but it can get interesting. Now let's start with her age, because as the first of the fairy tale models, fairy number 1 would be over 100 years old if she's still alive. And we know from Nayuta's one story that she was there to experience what life is like before the rapture invasion happened. So this confirms that she is indeed over 100 years old. So she easily clears the age requirement. Now another thing we know about fairy number 1 is that according to the commander of the Goddess Squad, she's dead, and that her body was nowhere to be found, because according to him, she was scattered all over. And doesn't that sound familiar to you? After all, we know that Nayuta is a Nikke whose special ability allows her to quote-unquote die and return to life thanks to her clones. And we also know that her clones turn into blue and golden particles and scatter to the wind when they perish. So yeah, the way that fairy number 1's death is described sounds really similar to what happens when one of Nayuta's clones die. So if Nayuta is indeed fairy number 1, then she might have used her clones to fake her death. And as for the reason why she would do that, well, she might have done it to join the Deep. After all, we know that Nayuta is a former member of the Deep. And since the Deep is a secret organization that works in the darkness, I think that it would make sense if one of the requirements to join is to fake your death. Now the last thing we know about the first fairy tale model is that she was based on Lilith without any adjustments. So it's safe to say that she would be as powerful as Lilith if she is still alive. Now of course, the original Nayuta still haven't joined the fight because she mainly focused on summoning her clones in part 1, so it's hard to gauge how powerful she really is. And so far, there's really no reason to believe that base Nayuta is anywhere near Lilith. However, it was shown in the event trailer that she's going to merge with her clones at some point in the final fight. And I think that it's not absurd to assume that this merged Nayuta might be close to Lilith in power. I mean, we even saw in the trailer that she gains the eyes of a queen after merging with her clones. And one way to explain why she would have those is if she's made in a similar way to Lilith. So yeah, Nayuta is a Nikke who might have been based on fairies, she's over 100 years old, she might have known Lilith personally, her clones scatter when they die, and the trailer shows her having the eyes of a queen. And yeah, that's why I think that she could have been the first of the fairy tale models. Now again, I don't really believe this theory is going to turn out to be true because it relies on too many assumptions. However, I think that it's a fun possibility to consider, especially after Rose and Red Shoes appeared in part 1. At that point, I'm convinced that anything can happen in the story of this event. Even something as absurd as revealing Nayuta as the first fairy tale model.